Our dear guests, welcome to Fantasy Island.
Son called Mr. Levy was attending a public event that hundreds of local people attended to ask questions about a healing lodge being erected in their community. Levy was simply asking basic questions about who would be housed in this facility, questions that many of the people in attendance were asking and they weren't getting answers to. What happened was she was asked to leave and escorted out by 4 armed police officers. A journalist in Canada being taken out of a public event for asking basic questions. But that's not all. Increasingly, journalists are filing access to information requests, and they are coming back blank and redacted more than ever. When politicians and law enforcement get up at the podium to take questions, more and more they say, no comment, can't comment, ongoing legal affair, ongoing process, nothing to see here, folks, so just take it and shut up and be on your merry way. Years ago, one of my columnists at the Ottawa Sun said that back in the day, they used to be able to pick up the phone, call any bureaucrat at the city, ask them a specific question about their department, and they would get an answer. Good luck doing that now. You call a bureaucrat, you get a PR person calling you back and chewing you out for doing it.
A defender of the status quo claiming that the fact that the gay horse case was dropped after the arrested man refused to pay the fine, and that the Scientology case was also dropped at some point during the court process, was proof that the law was working well, ignoring the fact that the only reason these cases were dropped was because of the publicity that they had attracted. The police sensed that ridicule was just around the corner and withdrew their actions. But what about the thousands of other cases that did not enjoy the oxygen of publicity, that weren't quite ludicrous enough to attract media attention? Even for those actions that were withdrawn, people were arrested, questioned, taken to court, and then released. You know, that isn't a law working properly. That is censoriousness of the most intimidating kind, guaranteed to have, as Lord Deer says, a chilling effect on free expression and free protest. Parliament's Joint Committee on Human Rights summarised, as you may know, this whole issue very well by saying, while arresting a protester for using threatening or abusive speech may, depending on the circumstances, be a proportionate response, we do not think that language or behaviour that is merely insulting should ever be criminalised in this way. The clear problem with the outlawing insult is that too many things can be interpreted as such. Criticism is easily construed as insult by certain parties. Ridicule easily construed as insult. Sarcasm, unfavourable comparison, merely stating an alternative point of view to the orthodoxy can be interpreted as insult. And because so many things can be interpreted as insult, it is hardly surprising that so many things have been, as the examples I talked about earlier show. Although the law under discussion
that the military can't do any non-essential tasks while you keep asking it to do more.
I sat down with the CDS yesterday to have a conversation exactly about this. We recognize how important it is to ensure that our military, that women and men who serve, have the support they need. We've been working on recruitment. We've been working closely with the CDS. There's no question that with more extreme weather events across the country, with a more unstable geopolitical world, there is going to be a need for Canadians to engage, and we need to make sure that the military has the support it's needed.
A very difficult session this afternoon with the commanders of the various services as we attempt to explain this to our people. Our people see the degrading, declining security situation around the world, and so trying to explain this to them is very difficult.
That's the House Committee on National Defence from the Chief of the Staff about potential cuts of $1 billion to the military.
I was prepared to be injured in the line of duty when I joined the military. Nobody forced me to join the military. I was prepared to be killed in action. What I wasn't prepared for, Mr. Prime Minister, is Canada turning its back on me. So which veteran is it that you were talking about?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your passion and your strength and being here today to share this justifiable frustration and anger with me and with all of us here. Thank you for having the courage to stand here, and thank you for listening to my answer. On a couple of elements you brought up. First of all, why are we still fighting against certain veterans groups in court? Because they are asking for more than we are able to give right now. Because they are asking for more than we are able to give right now. Because they are asking for more than we are able to give right now.
That we learned we'd sent about 100 Canadian troops to Poland. They were there to help train Ukrainians to fight the Russians. But we'd sent them without a cook. And the Department of National Defense had said, well, just eat out at local restaurants and submit the bills, and we'll pay you back right away. But months had gone by, and none of these troops had been reimbursed. And so they were asking their family and friends at home to send them money because they'd maxed out their credit cards.
Remember when Justin Trudeau said he admired China's basic dictatorship? That happened in 2013 when he was a Liberal leader but not yet the Prime Minister of Canada. And he was asked during a Liberal fundraiser what he admired most aside from Canada. And his response was China, because dictatorship allowed it to move faster on acquiring currency.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China. Because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy on a dime and say we need to go green as fast as we need to start investing in solar. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know Stephen Harper must dream about, of having a dictatorship that he could do everything he wanted, that I find quite interesting.
It was a remarkably insensitive thing to say. It upset many Canadians with origins or family in China, Taiwan, Tibet, Korea, who had all suffered under his dictatorship. But the bigger concern came after 2015, when Justin Trudeau became the Prime Minister, because then we started seeing that admiration for China in an increasing number of government announcements by cabinet ministers. His then Environment Minister, Catherine McKenna, repeatedly praised China as a leader in the fight against climate change, which was absurd because China uses half the world's coal. Even after China basically kidnapped two innocent Canadians, our two Michaels, in retaliation during the Meng Wanzhou affair, and accused us of white supremacy for trying to get them back, this praise for China continued. Small Business Minister Mary Ng, I mean, talk about tasteless, in this context, puts out a tweet of herself eating Canadian-made ice cream in China. His then Defense Minister, Harjit Sajjan, shocks a security clearance when he says China is not Canada's adversary. Trudeau's then Health Minister, Patty Hajdu, was praised by China when Canada didn't follow the lead of other countries in banning flights coming in from China at the start of the pandemic. And then shortly after, she accused a CTV television producer of contributing to internet conspiracies by asking whether World Organization data on the pandemic could be accurate when there was concerns about the accuracy of the death and infection rates coming out of China. 2 weeks later, China upped the death count in Wuhan by 50%, which was the epicenter of the pandemic.
So we'll tell you what to do vis-a-vis China. Let's begin with Canada. Do you know that Justin Trudeau was very keen on hosting Chinese troops? A new report is making waves. It says Justin Trudeau wanted to engage with the Chinese military. He wanted the PLA to train with Canadian forces. The report has been published by a Canadian newspaper. It claims that the Trudeau government wanted to hold joint military drills with the Chinese. It had invited the PLA for winter military exercises, but the drills never happened. Why? Because the Canadian Chief of Defence Staff cancelled the plan. General Jonathan Vance seems to have gone against the will of the Trudeau government. The reason was pressure from the United States, Canada's neighbour and ally. America believed that drills like these benefit the Chinese army. China is its adversary. America was right. And this, by the way, is common sense. So what was the Trudeau government thinking? Apparently, Prime Minister Trudeau, quote unquote, raged at the Canadian Armed Forces for cancelling the training mission.
Matters worse, about half of our units don't have anti-tank weapons. They don't have anti-drone systems. So if the Russians were to send drones over, we wouldn't know they were there until after they'd attacked. It's disgusting. It borders on criminal in my mind. But at the very least, it's disgusting that the Liberals would ask people to serve their country in the most dangerous way without giving them the adequate equipment. And here's the kicker. In Latvia, we are training right next to Danes. The Danes are fully kitted out. They have all the right equipment. They have all the right helmets and vests. They have rain ponchos. And much of the equipment is Canadian made. And the Danes got it from Canadian suppliers, which means the equipment is there. The reason our troops don't have it is that the Liberals have always had a disdain for our military. They have no respect for them. They don't mind neglecting them. And the bureaucrats in Ottawa aren't working in the office, and they don't care. They're not being able to find the right equipment, buy it, and ship it to Latvia. The Danes can do that with our own equipment, but not the Department of National Defence and not the Trudeau government. See what I mean about being disgusting? For Post Media, I'm Lorne Gunter.
Pentagon documents obtained by the Washington Post are revealing potentially concerning cracks in Canada's military and its relationship with NATO. Within the secret trove, private revelations by the Prime Minister over military spending. Here's CTV's Judy Trinh.
Military secrets, allegedly leaked by a low-ranking U.S. airman on social media, have ensnared Canada's leader. The Washington Post reports that classified documents reveal that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has privately told NATO officials Canada will never meet the military alliance's pledge of spending 2% of its GDP on defense. Trudeau deflected but didn't deny.
I continue to say and will always say that Canada is a reliable partner to NATO, a reliable partner around the world.
Canada only spends 1.29% of its GDP on the military, according to NATO. It has for decades under successive governments failed to reach its target. Analysts are only surprised the Prime Minister said the quiet part out loud.
It's common knowledge that Prime Minister Trudeau was trying to water down the villainous commitment to 2% as a floor, all of which is incredibly disappointing. I hope the Canadians are watching your confirmation hearing. General, you'll be working closely with Canada if confirmed. Can you commit to this committee that you can have discussions with the Canadians and say, hey, look, when you're not supporting NATO, when you're not supporting missile defense for North America, it's actually harmful to the alliance. Americans get frustrated when our allies don't pull their weight. They're not very good at paying for missile defense either, even though we protect the whole North American continent.
Canada to get treatment for his combat-related PTSD and a traumatic brain injury. He expected help getting better and getting his life back. Instead, he got an unexpected and unwanted offer to help him end it through medically assisted death. Multiple sources have told Global News the veteran was shocked. The agent on the other end of the phone raised MAID as an alternative to treatment out of the blue. In a statement to Global News, VAC confirmed the allegation, saying the department was recently made aware of an incident involving a veteran client and a Veterans Affairs Canada employee, where medical assistance in dying was discussed inappropriately. VAC deeply regrets what transpired.
Listen to voices in my own head would tell me things like, turn your motorcycle in front of that 18-wheeler. What are you doing here? You're no good anymore.
Toby Miller is a former special operations supporter, seriously injured in Afghanistan. He says the demoralizing effect of being offered death instead of treatment puts lives at risk with veterans who already feel they have lost their sense of purpose.
Reinforcing that with an offer of MAID can really be a recipe for disaster for somebody who may already be suffering ideation or suicidal thoughts.
Wounded Warriors Canada, a charity that helps injured vets, says they are deeply concerned by the incident.
It's just flat out wrong.
Maxwell says veterans will often only come forward once, and an offer like this could deter them.
You get